Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings. Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a weekly podcast from Practical E-Commerce, hosted by entrepreneur Eric Bandholz.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Bandholz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. Hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the Internet from me, Barry, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Eric. Good to see you. Great to see you. Thank you for having me, really.
Yeah, been a long time. One
of my favorite podcasts on the Internet by far.
You listen to every episode.
Yep. Because I know exactly where to find it, because I'm a big fan of yours.
I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast or not, but for all those who are listening, this is the best podcast no one's ever heard of, because I do a terrible job of promoting it, rightfully so. But if you do end up across this podcast, it is the best podcast in e-commerce. I am entirely biased. Who the hell are you, Barry?
I will be writing a Yelp review for you, good or bad. So you better make this really fun for me, because I will be brutal if this interview sucks. I am Barry Hott. I am a longtime Facebook ad nerd. If you recognize me or know me a little bit, you might know me for being the Make Ugly Ads guy. If you don't know me, maybe you've seen me in ads and be like, hey, I kind of recognize that guy. He's in a lot of ads, kind of like you. And what else do? I do a lot of consulting. I own a piece of a performance marketing agency called AdCrate, where we do really high performance creative. And I'm just kind of in the space, talking on Twitter, talking on LinkedIn about marketing stuff, because it's what I enjoy. I can talk more about myself if you'd like.
Well, I would just say, like, we all know him as Very Hot, Barry Hot.
That's me. I love that when people refer to me as Barry Hot, like the two name one word, I really enjoy that for some reason. Yeah. Always have.
You you're a guru who's actually done
really?
stuff.
Thank you. I think I'm insulted, but thank you.
Yeah, no. Like, what are some of the brands that you've worked on? Certainly people have heard of those.
Yeah. Well, I was very fortunate early in my career. I got to spend hundreds of millions of dollars working on some big boy brands: AT&T, Toyota, Kraft, Microsoft, AT&T. Got to work on those really big things at a pretty early point in my career, where I was working at like a media buying software company where we were doing the direct media buying on behalf of some of those brands, or some of those brands agencies were buying through us. And I was the one like literally in the platforms flipping switches. But then after leaving that space, I've been more in the D2C, more in the aggressive, conversion focused startup world. So I've worked on Harry's. I've worked on Lumen Skin. I helped grow that for 2 years, right around when they launched. And so many other brands. I also helped launch Lone River Ranch Water, which is a hard seltzer, not D2C. And we got that acquired after 1 year through using an aggressive D2C approach to advertising, even though we weren't actually advertising direct to consumer or selling anything online, but using that same kind of playbook creatively. And what else do I work on? I work on some brands. Like I'm kind of behind the scenes of a lot of things. Like I'm helping do some consulting projects for some of the biggest brands that you see ads for. And I'm not allowed to talk about them. So
yeah,
that's fun.
So I'm going to speak for myself and maybe for a couple of listeners. For the life of me, I cannot figure out how to make ads profitable on Meta.
Ooh.
Is this like, and when I say this, like at any significant scale, so like maybe we can get up to like $500 a day, something like that.
Sure.
And then after that is just, we lose all of our money. Is there hope?
Do
Is there hope
Mhm.
out there, or is the market changing? What the hell is going on? Or am I just completely incompetent, or a little
Um,
of both?
at no point in your business's, existence was it able to be profitable or scalable.
I think when it was able to be profitable and scalable, we just weren't doing it. We were on like
Possible.
YouTube organic.
Well, then where is it? Where is it scalable? Where is it? Where are you making money? Where are you? Are you making
Oh
money?
no! At this point, no. Like the past 2 years, we're
Okay.
not making any money. It's been a complete disaster.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So historically we've done organic really well. So we ranked
Mhm.
well in
Okay.
SEO. We had our YouTube content. We got up to 2 million subscribers, and YouTube was, cranking out a ton of content.
Mhm.
And then we would sprinkle that in with like a little bit of ad game. And at our peak,
Right.
I would say maybe we were break even or just like losing a little bit of money on ads. We were up to
Mhm.
like 120K a spend a month. And
That's good.
since then, it's been like a lot harder, like real challenging.
Yeah, yeah. It's been tough for a lot of people, especially since January, February this year. Lots been just going awry for a lot of people. So for what I do as a consultant, business has been booming because so many people are trying to bring me in to help either stop the bleeding, turn the ship around, or like get something new going. And like I'm happy to like dig in. We can do as much of a deep audit as you want. But
Well, I mean,
like it.
I guess when you say you dig in, like what are the levers you're looking at
Mhm.
for what can fundamentally change the performance of an ad account?
Well, I'm going to plug. I was not planning on plugging my own little thing one thing that I sell. But I do sell an audit template for this exact purpose. So like I literally sell my like audit checklist of like, if I'm going to go through an account, I built this insane doc of just like all of the things that I go through to like check everything. And so I sell that on my site. You can like find it. You should look up $1 billion audit template or something like that. Look up my name, whatever. But that's
talking about you getting on me about making things
I know.
successful. Berryhot.com, right?
Veryhot.com, hotgrowth.com. Just literally Google Barry Hot, you'll find it. That's what I tell people. It's the easiest thing. Completely unattributable sales is what I'm looking for.
That's how we market.
Yeah, right. So, I made that because I just found like it was something I had built that was great. And I was like, oh, you guys don't have this? What do you do for audits? And they're like, oh, and I saw everyone else's checklists and I was like, this is like looking at all the wrong things. Like so many of these audits look at benchmarks and like mine doesn't. I don't care about CPM benchmarks or CTR benchmarks. I'm looking at how consistent are your audiences targeting and excluding things. I'm looking at are you allowing the system to target existing customers or recent visitors? And I'm not saying you can or can't or should or shouldn't, but I'm just saying, are you? And if you are, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to look at your data a little bit different. If I know that you're letting the system target your existing customers and you're letting the system target visitors from the last 7 days, let's just say, and you're allowing the system to optimize for the attribution setting of 7-day click, 1-day view, I can go look at a breakdown. I can go use the compare attribution setting tool to see how many of your sales are being attributed to 1-day view, 1-day click, or 7-day click. And depending on how you're setting up your targeting, how you're allowing those things to happen, if I were to see, for example, a really high 1-day view ROAS and a really low 1-day click ROAS, that would to me would be a sign of, and that's a common thing I find, especially in like retargeting campaigns, that would be a sign of potentially non-incremental sales, which is bad for a couple reasons. One, you're believing you're getting sales that you're not getting, which is, bad for a lot of reasons. And you're also you're letting the system optimize for that, which means the system thinks it's doing a good job getting you what you're telling it to do. So you as a marketer and the system together are both potentially looking at the wrong things for what's actually working to drive scale in your business. And I see that problem at different scales a lot. Because it's really a lot of marketers are like, yeah, crank up the retargeting budget. Let's hit our most recent visitors. But if your most recent visitors are most likely to buy, especially if you're not excluding past customers. So like talk about the warmest possible person is someone who's bought from your brand before and is already on your site in the last 7 days or last 1 day. Like that, the system is going to target them.
Yeah.
And the system to target that person doesn't need to get them to actually pay attention or click if you're using 1-day view attribution. So it's all of this together. And that's why I built this audit template, because it like helps you better understand and better track and better look at all of the functions that go into how and why the system would kind of like let you do that, or at least really the audit template really just like helps you uncover all of the things. It really just tries to get you to look at the targeting, look at the attribution setting, look at like making sure the audiences are being updated, right? If you shouldn't just be using a purchase audience. You shouldn't only be using 180-day pixel purchase audience. You should be using a Klaviyo automatically updating audience, not an audience that you like uploaded once, 6 months ago. Like that's not good. So it's just like trying to get all the nooks and crannies of that stuff so that you can find it. And I offer that template. And then I also like generally do this I like to do, I do full deep dive audits, which are really intensive. But usually what I find is on a 1 or 2 hour call with someone, I can find like 1 or 2 like red flags. I have yet to be hired by someone who needed me to find something wrong where I didn't find something wrong, right? Something significant. And where I'm able to explain just based on my experience of doing this, like if you're going to let the system do this, this is what's going to happen. So you need to have like a strategy and a philosophy and an approach to how you want to set these things up. Because if you don't, the system's just going to do whatever it wants to get you the results, even if the results are
They're like salespeople.
not incremental.
They're going to be the laziest. They're going to do
Yes.
the laziest friggin' thing they can to
Yes.
hit their numbers.
Yeah,
So, like,
and they're
if
worse.
you don't
They're
give them
worse.
the good numbers to work off of, you're fucked.
Yes, right. It's about incentive, right? I like to say it's about this game now is about empathizing with your audience, right? To make good ads for them. But from a systematic media buying standpoint, it's about empathizing with the AI, with the machine learning algorithm, with the system, understanding how and why it operates in the way that it does, and how and why it's incentivized, and how and why it can cheat. The system wants you to spend more money. So the system wants to take more credit for more sales. That's it. And you can use third-party attribution tools to like help with that, but those are misleading too. Those are misleading and broken. Like I using them is net positive, and I think most people should use one, or at least use it for an extended period of time to get a good understanding of what your performance is tracked outside of platforms. But like, I've been meaning to post about this more, and by the time this goes out, I might have posted about it. There are ads in accounts that have apparently bad performance, right? At the ad level, right? But the system's spending a lot of money on it. But you're like, why is the system spending on this ad when it looks like the CPA is terrible on this ad and the ROAS is terrible on this ad? Why is it doing that? And that's the breakdown effect. If you're listening to this and you don't know what the breakdown effect is, hit pause, Google the Facebook breakdown effect, and go read whatever Facebook's documentation is on it. Go find my newsletter article about it. Like, dig in, because that is extremely important for anyone touching Facebook ads to understand. But the worst part of that is that aside from the breakdown effect,
so I don't know the breakdown effect. Can you give like a 10-second?
Yeah. I was like realizing I probably should just do that. So the breakdown effect is where you're looking at data in the platform, but that data is based on pre-optimized performance, right? So Facebook is spending more on ad A than ad B because it thinks ad A will get more sales overall, right? By spending more on ad A than on ad B, it thinks it will get overall more sales for ad A and ad B than if it spent more on ad B. What you can't see is this: you can't simulate the opposite. You can't do it because you can't assume, oh, if the system had just spent more on ad B, the overall performance would have been better. That is a false false assumption because it's probably not as scalable of an ad. Ad A is probably more scalable and ad B is probably less scalable, but just because it's spent less on it and that ad B maybe has an apparent better ROAS or an apparent better CPA doesn't mean it's better. And what a lot of marketers do is they see top spending ad has a high CPA, so it's hurting our business. We turn it off. The other problem is it can look even worse out in third-party attribution platforms. So you could be like looking in Triple Whale or Northbeam and being like, this ad's not driving any sales. What's going on? Why is the system spending on this? And asking that question is good. Turning that ad off is not necessarily good. So you got to look at other factors, and you got to remember that Meta is trying to get you, and any other optimized ad platform, but Meta is trying to get you the most sales it can, the most conversions it can for your budget. And if you're saying, here's a bunch of budget, spend it on these ads, let's say these 5 ads, and it's spending the most on this one, like it's doing that for a reason. It can get it wrong. I'd say less than 10% of the time it's getting it wrong. I'd say probably less than 5% of the time it's getting that wrong. It can get it wrong, and that sucks. And I can get into that more. But what really is happening is you just can't see how or why what it's doing to like benefit everything else. So let's say that top spending ad maybe is the best at getting cold users to learn, people who have no idea what your brand is, no idea what your product is. They maybe that ad is doing a really good job at bringing people to pay attention to your videos, engage with your Instagram page, do all these things that we're not really able to track or measure, or measure them well in terms of the impact on sales. But maybe then the system knows, all right, this ad will do that, and then these other ads might get them over the line. Yeah, right. And especially now that Facebook generally recommends a consolidated account, I would recommend it. A lot of people are just using less manual retargeting and manual breakouts for things. It's harder to see that, but it's always been hard to see how one ad works in one way or another. And maybe by the way, it's just that ad needs to be seen more times, but we just can't see what that interaction is to get people in. And one example I actually did get to see recently was where an ad, a top spending ad, performance started to falter. So the client turned off that ad, and I had to be like, hey, like I caught it. And I had to be like, hey, like, let's talk about this. What are you doing? Like, why would you want to do that? And like, well, look, the performance is bad here and the performance is bad in Northbeam. What are we doing? And I was like, well, yeah, but let's go take a look, because I actually see this ad has been spending a lot for a long time, and it's getting the lion's share of spend, which suggests to me like, and it's been doing it for a long time. So that means like, if maybe something's gone wrong with the ad, so let's go look at the comments. Let's see, is there a negative comment that's piled up lots of engagements on it? Maybe hiding that will help. And I've seen that work, by the way. Very simple solution to a funny, easy problem. But the other thing I noticed was I just like have a custom metric for cost per share. Like you can look at the number of shares in your ad account. That's a regular column, but I added like cost per share. I don't really look at that column very often. It's very stupid. But to be able to see like my normal cost per share for that account was like $100, right? Because not a lot of people share ads.
Right.
It was, I think maybe like 150 or 200 was the normal like average for everything else. This one ad had an $8 cost per share. Like if you wanted to get ads to be shared, that would be insanely cheap.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're getting sales, and you're getting people to like share that. And I don't think shares now are traditionally shares on people's pages like it used to be. It's more like you're sharing it in a DM to someone, but like still valuable.
Oh yeah.
Right. Still really, really valuable, but it's untrackable. It's just like took completely dark to Ads Manager as a platform, or it's completely untrackable to something like Triple Whale or Northbeam, right? It has no way to attribute that user A saw an ad and shared it to user B, and then user B bought. That user B will get served some other ad,
Yes.
some other time. So like I have to hope and assume that the system is spending on these ads for a good reason. And even though I'm saying it sometimes gets it wrong, maybe we're just wrong about it getting it wrong.
Yeah, I
and
mean, like
it's
from
really hard.
if you're a gambling guy and it's right 90% or 95% of the time, you're going to be
Yeah.
dumb to bet against it. Like you're going to lose
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
So, kind of like we've bought into, Andrew, I don't know if you follow Andrew Ferris or not.
I love Andrew Ferris.
And he's a bid cap guy.
Yeah.
So I've bought into like outside of like a promotion ending or a product being out of stock or something, like we leave all the ads on all the time.
Yeah,
and try to get new scale through new creative.
Sure.
Is that kind of like the strategy you're going at, or do you take a little bit different? Do you have a different take?
Yeah. So first of all, I love Andrew Ferris. Big fan of his. If you're listening to this and you like anything I'm saying, go find my interview on his thing because it was a lot of fun. And I'm a big fan of his. Him and I disagree on a few things, but very, very respectfully and very amicably. But I also generally his perspective of capping things and leaving things on. The problem I have with bid caps on everything and cost caps on everything in the kind of rigid sort of way, and not to say I don't use them. I use them in ways, and they're tools to be used in certain ways. But I find that, let's say the example I just used, right? Let's say the example I just used, where an ad maybe is not getting a great cost per purchase on that ad, but the system knows it to be getting overall helping lift up sales, which I could be wrong about. Maybe the system's wrong, and maybe that $8 cost per share that's bring people into the funnel. Maybe I'm seeing something wrong. Maybe that data point is wrong. I don't know. But I have to assume the system wants to be spending on that in that environment. But if you set your bid too low, right, or set a cost cap too low or whatever, then my fear is that individual ad, if it's placed in an ad set that has too low of a bid, it will never get the chance to spend in a way that it can support the entire ad ecosystem. So I don't have a rigid philosophy about only use bid caps, only use cost caps. Because there's different reasons in different businesses and different whatever. But that's my problem with that one is if you make a new ad, especially a new ad that has big social potential that maybe isn't great at direct sales right now, but it is good at helping other things sell and getting people in. Yeah, it's just in a perfect world, bid caps and cost caps are flawless, right? But we don't advertise in a perfect world. We don't advertise in a vacuum. Things are ugly. Things are wonky. Things are a little different. And I think it works often for Andrew, and it works often for a lot of advertisers because they're already doing that with lots of ads that they've proven and are, they've gotten to do that with. But it doesn't give a lot of room to the ads, the unusual ads, the ads that do something a little bit out of the norm, which is possible. So I don't know. That's my little frustration with that plan.
Yeah, so what is your strategy coming in?
I like to have a controlled testing environment where every new concept gets an ad set. That's for both organization purposes and for letting things battle it out. I want a bundle of similar things to be tested against each other. And then I have a benchmark that I'm expecting ads to hit, right?
Okay. How many ads in an ad set, real quickly?
No more than 6.
No more than 6. Okay, so you got
if
6.
It's a regular ad set, that guidance can change, but it's been no more than 6 for a while. Yeah.
Okay. And then what are the metrics you're looking to hit? I know it all ranges.
Yeah.
Everyone.
No. I mean, usually what I'm looking at is I've ran my best ads in the same environment. So that's the first thing. Have my best ads run in this environment, this testing environment, whatever that is. When I say environment, I mean targeting, I mean attribution setting, everything stays the same. So I need to know my best ads can spend this much and get this cost per purchase. And anything, in that range is useful to me. Anything above that, right, cost-wise, is useless to me. Significantly. And, anything below that, that's a killer, right? And then, so I'll have a testing environment, usually with pretty rigid, certainly excluding all customers, excluding some set of visitors. That could be 1-day visitors. That could be 7-day visitors, could be 14-day, 30-day. Depends on the account, depends on the business, depends on a lot of things. Because I want to be testing ads for cold audiences.
Okay.
My goal in as an advertiser and just media buyer, everything I'm doing, like I want to be making ads that make sense and work for the broadest possible, coldest possible audiences. A lot of people would say that's fucking stupid, but like if it can work well for those people, it's going to work well for my warmer audiences too. Period. Like that is fundamentally simpler. It's much easier to make ads that work and make sense for your existing warm audiences, right? And it's also misleading because if you make ads that make more sense to your warmest audiences, then those ads are going to outperform or appear to outperform because Facebook is going to deliver them to the warmer audiences. Those are going to have the lowest possible costs. It might not be super scalable, but I'm looking for the most scalable ads. I want to be testing ads in that environment. I'm probably excluding engagers too, by the way, recent engagers. I just want to, I'm not saying 180 visitors or 180-day engagers, but just recent, however you want to define that, that's fine. And I want to see what they do, knowing that cost per purchase will probably be worse than other retargeting.
It's only going to get better.
Audiences. Right. Or it should. So I'll develop a benchmark for that, and then I'll put new bundles in, new ad sets in, of concepts. Again, like a concept will be like one video with like 6 different edits. Or if it's one video that I already know has performed well, maybe I'll do it with like different versions of copies or a slightly different trim or a different thumbnail. Or if it's an image, I'll maybe do like 5 different fonts, or I'll do, a different headline on each of them. There's, however you want to do it. Like that's how I generally batch a concept because even though I'm very good at this, I can't predict which variant is going to work. I just can't. I wish I could. I can often predict ones that will suck. There are a lot of ones where I'm like, oh, this is going to fail. But like, I can't pick the winner out of like 3 headlines because there's just some serendipity to it, right? And the thing that makes sense to me in my marketing mind might not be what makes sense to the consumers of that as well. And it's often for reasons why we don't expect. So I usually try to analyze after. I try not to spend much time predicting performance. I spend a lot more time analyzing the variance after and why something might have worked. Because
how much spend do you give until you give up on it?
Yeah, it's about getting a number. That's a great question. It's not about spend. It's about getting an amount of data, useful data. So I was saying before, like I want to hit a benchmark, right? So I want to be able to spend enough to be getting like 20-ish conversions. This all depends because like if you're selling something that's $20, you're selling something that's $100, you're selling something that's $1,000. Depending on your budgets, depending on your returns, return on ad spend, like you're gonna have different tolerances depending on your tolerance for failure, depending on like how much money you just have in the bank. Like it's all gonna vary. So usually I'm looking for 20 or so decent signals at the ad set level where hopefully that's 20 purchases. That's 20 real purchases. And by that point I'll know, and usually, I'll know what budget that should be. Or let me back up. It'll be 20 times the goal CPA. So let's say, if something spent, if it's $2,000, like I'll know by that time, whatever, if it's, $100 CPA is my goal. If by the time it's spent $2,000, I will know, is this in the realm of something good or bad? Now, Andrew and others, would say like, oh, well, bid caps will prevent it from spending on things, so you won't lose money. And he's right. And that's, if you're more risk averse, if you're more cost averse, like whatever, like that's a better plan. It's more efficient. You'll do better immediately by doing that. It's a good plan. The reason I don't like that is because it inhibits learnings. There is a world in which you can like look at an ad that really gets shut down quickly by bids for not spending, and you can try and hypothesize around that, like, why did this fail? And you can try and adjust it. But I find that I'd rather get things to spend a bit more, to get more data on it, to see if you can find another pocket on a different placement to different users somewhere else. And it's often going to lose money. And I'm okay with that because I'm only okay with that. And I only recommend that if you have someone or you yourself can spend the time analyzing it and learning from it deeply from a creative perspective. If you don't have time to do it, you don't have someone who has time to do it, then don't do what I just said. Like, use rigid bids, use rigid cost caps, keep it low. I do use bids or cost caps, but pretty high. Like, I'm trying to avoid, if my goal cost is $100, I'm trying to avoid the ad that like really sucks and has like, it would have like a $250 CPA. It just sucks. I want to avoid that loss. Okay. So I do have a tolerance for that, but like, I'm not a guy who's going to say like my goal cost is $100, set the bid at 101 or 99 or a 90. Like, to me, it's just, it doesn't support a healthy ecosystem in the account. And yeah, like, it's not been good for me to be able to learn. I need to see ads actually fail so I can learn, so I can make better ads and better creative.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
build that database.
You make ugly ads.
I do.
What is your template for what you suspect a good ad would be? Like, how is that going to be creatively?
Look, I am the make ugly ads guy. I tell people focus on for a lot of reasons, like making stuff uglier, just because our brains are, as marketers, we're used to making prettier stuff. But like that, the main thing that matters to your question is relatability, relevance, authenticity. You can do that in a non-ugly way. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can, like, because those are the things that matter. Is just like making something that your audience, and maybe even broader than what you expect your audience to be, making something that's relevant to them, making something they'll care about quickly. Like that first second, that first reaction, that's often what matters so much more than a lot of the other things you can tinker with and play with. Yeah, like, just make something that is immediately relatable, that people will care about. Just make something people won't skip. If you can't beat that bar, then you're fucked. If you can beat that bar, then take it to, okay, how do we make them feel something immediately? And generally, I want to find the negative feeling, right? So if I'm working on Tushy bidets, one of my favorite clients at AdCrate, one of my favorite things I get to work on. I love bidets, a huge fan of it. I think everyone should have one. Like, I can't just say like you should have a bidet. Like, that's not a great hook, not a great, no one knows what it is. So like, I'd want to go, what's something I can make someone feel uncomfortable about? So I could talk about like, do you have an itchy butt? Do you hate, do you, hate wasting? Actually, I don't think people care about wasting toilet paper, like the environment. I don't think people care that much about the environment. They care about themselves.
It's like you're not a dingleberry farmer.
Yeah. That's a great one. Yeah. Even that's probably too clever for a hook, right? People want something more direct. They need something more direct, in my opinion.
So you got to dumb it down a little bit.
I think so. Although Dingleberry Farmer might be catchy enough that it'll get attention, that'll make up for the cleverness. But yeah, like, I want to talk about that as a pain, or I want to talk about that as like, it's 2024 and you don't have a bidet yet. Like, I want to make someone feel kind of ashamed in that way. Yeah. Like, I want to make someone, and if I can make someone feel something positive or negative that relates to the product, relates to the brand, that's what I want to do immediately, visually, through storytelling, or through text, or through voice, or preferably all of those. So that's what I would want to do.
This is a side. Does Tushy still have the problem where they don't own Tushy.com?
They definitely do not go to Tushy.com on your work computer. It is hello-tushy.com. Okay. And I promise you, every employee at AdCrate that works on Tushy has gone to Tushy.com accidentally.
What an unfortunate thing.
I mean, yep.
I mean, I wonder how many people, like, who's that founder's name? It starts with M, right?
Yes.
Anyways,
Mika.
something like that. She's
I
like,
should know. Oh my god, I'm ashamed of myself right now.
she's totally like one of those people who's not a prude. So like
Mickey, sorry, Mickey. Yeah.
War.
Yeah. I'm not saying it. I'll say that.
Anyways, Tushy's a great brand. So that's cool that you've gotten to work on it. Where can people?
I mean, I love it.
Where can people follow you? Learn more about you.
Just Google Barry Hot. I don't know. You'll find my Twitter, LinkedIn. I post some stuff. My newsletter, which I love pitching my newsletter to people who don't like newsletters. If you hate newsletters, I got a newsletter for you, because let me tell you, I haven't sent a newsletter in months. But you can both go look at my like archive of posts, which might be valuable to. If you found any of this valuable, at least one of those posts is going to be valuable to you, to like kind of reiterate a lot of the things I've said.
And get that audit.
Yeah. I'll get that audit doc. That's, somewhere on my site. It should be easy enough to find. I don't know. Find me on Twitter, find me on LinkedIn, reach out, talk to me, ask me some questions, and maybe I'll have a course someday. Who knows?
Yeah. This has been another e-commerce conversations. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Cheers.
I did. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And keep on growing.